for telling us how to be more Wonder Woman. This is Cheryl's awesome book. I'm just saying, I also love the illustrations because I'm very much like a visual person. So I'm loving the quotes and the illustrations that go along with this. It is a fantastic sauce. So I am loving it. So Cheryl's going to tell us her journey into being more Wonder Woman and the positive psychology that is behind it too. I am so looking forward to this, and I love this. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us. By all means,
Thank you for having me.
And let you just take over, girl. The floor is yours. We are here to learn and love.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I'll share the screen in a little bit, but it's just good to see your faces. And I noticed, Michelle, I liked your t-shirt as well. We're all kind of wearing, you know, we're in this together and we're strong. And, yeah, so I've got my Wonder Woman, obviously, if I'm going to wear it any day. But yeah, just a very quick introduction. My name's Cheryl Rickman. I'm a self-help and business book author and ghostwriter. So I've written, this was my 8th book with my name on it. And then I've done quite a few I've ghostwritten a lot of books for other people as well, which don't have my name on, obviously. So I think it's 18 in total. So I'm very, very blessed to be writing books that kind of help people to kind of fret less and flourish more. Is what I try and do in my books. I live in south of England, as I mentioned, in a nice little country cottage in the countryside, surrounded by sheep and tractors and all that good stuff. So live with my other half, James, and got a 12-year-old daughter. So I'm raising a Wonder Woman, another gal, who's definitely dances to her own drum beat. And in fact, just a little aside, she's decided to have her very long hair. She's going for the short, completely having it all cut off. And she's going to go, yep. And even though it's not really the kind of fashion now, like when I was a child, everybody had all girls had short hair. And now it's like, oh, but she's like, no, I want it done. So yeah, anyway, that's a little aside. I qualified a couple of years ago, well, a few years ago now, as with a positive psychology qualification. So I am going to talk to you a little bit today about kind of how Wonder Woman's wisdom is aligned to this kind of positive psychology, and I wanted to try and get a lot of that into the book as I could. And what positive psychology is, as opposed to normal, regular psychology, it's a field that only really started a few years ago. Well, 1905, so that's quite a while ago now, but it's still an emerging kind of field. And it really focuses on the kind of optimal human functioning, so flourishing. Martin Seligman is known as a kind of leader in the field. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll see your lovely face. I think, hold on, I haven't done this before, so it could go wrong. So I'm going to, hold on, I'm going to get my, no, I can't get my slideshow up. Actually, wait, let's just share screen. Okay, that's what I want, I think. And I'm going to share that. Now, I now need to go to slideshow, I think. So bear with me because, you know, us Wonder Women, we need to just kind of try and go with the flow. Right, so I think this is going to work. So from beginning, there we go. So thumbs up. Can you see the big B1 or Wonder Woman? Excellent. Okay, so yeah, so that's essentially why I got sort of commissioned. I obviously said yes, jumped at the chance to write this book. There are other ones like Be More Yoda, I think is one, and in the series, and various other ones. So but yeah, Be More Wonder Woman is definitely right up my street. And what I wanted to talk, these are actually the words that are inside the front cover of the Be More Wonder Woman book. And I think these words are, you know, we can all do with hearing right now with everything that's going on in the world. It's been a crazy year, as I'm sure for all of you. You know, we've all had a lot to deal with. You know, the fact truth, justice, peace and hope are kind of these values of Wonder Woman. And the fact, you know, we've had this sort of pandemic, or we're having this pandemic, and kind of lack of justice, various ways it's showing itself. I don't have to tell you, as Americans, obviously, you know, you've got your things that are happening, hopefully in November. Maybe it'll be a different story, so yay. But yeah, there's a lot of lack of justice, and people saying enough is enough, and you know, Black Lives Matter, and lots of sort of really important work going on. But this desire for truth and justice and peace and hope is really strong, and ultimately for just decency and respect and love. So really, values, you know, they're very valuable, and they're what ground us and give us that sense of integrity. And I think Wonder Woman, throughout from the early 40s, when Wonder Woman was sort of invented, to the comics today and the films, these kind of truth, justice, peace and hope are kind of the key values. And I think it's those values that keep us going through these difficult times. So yeah, just quickly to read through this. Today it feels like we need Wonder Woman like never before, more than just a villain catching world-saving superhero. She's a noble warrior, one who protects the values humans hold dear: truth, justice, peace and hope. Most of all, she represents a power of femininity, responding to aggression with compassion, speaking up with courage and leading with emotional intelligence. Now, obviously, this was written long before I knew that 2020 was going to be, you know, a bit of a shit show, let's be honest. So I didn't really know that was going to happen. But yes, this is something that's needed. Now, to get us onto positive psychology and how this relates to Wonder Woman, what you can see in front of you now is the Pillars of Wellbeing, which are positive emotion, P, E for engagement, R for relationships, M for meaning or purpose, and A for achievements. It used to be just PERMA as the sort of acronym. And then the person who actually taught me all about positive psychology from the Flourishing Centre, Amelia Sivitskaya, she sort of put forward, well, hold on, there's kind of one missing, because if you're not looking after yourself and, you know, eating well and sleeping well and moving enough and so on, then actually, you know, you've got to look after your body as well as your mind and everything else. And so the V has been added for vitality. So these they haven't just sort of come up with these random things. What's happened is researchers have found that at first they were studying happiness and psychology. I meant to say earlier, psychology up until positive psychology came along was very much all about trying to fix people and get people from mentally unwell back to neutral, essentially. And positive psychology is actually the field of optimal human functioning. So it's actually getting people north of neutral. So it's trying to find ways that we can create a sort of a higher set point of well-being. And what often does happen is things will happen to us, circumstances, we might lose somebody, or you know, have a breakup or something, you know, negative situations, circumstances will happen to us, and then so we're sort of going along like this, and then a terrible thing happened and we'll be down here. Or something amazing will happen and we you know, we might win a prize or fall in love or whatever it is, and we'll have these experiences, these circumstances, and then we kind of go back to our, generally, may take some time, but generally go back to our sort of set point of well-being, and we can change that. Some of it's what's it called? My brain's not working. Some of it is passed on sort of through generations, and whether your parents are optimistic and things like that. But most of it comes down, I think it's 40% of our well-being is we can have something to do with. We're in control of, through, not through circumstances that happen to us, but through our thoughts, our actions, and our feelings. So intentional actions that we can take, which can affect these pillars of well-being. And what they've done is they've done lots of research and found all these different interventions that people can use to raise their set point so that our level of well-being is a bit higher. And so anything can happen to us, but generally when we bounce back to this slightly higher level of well-being, so it's sustainable. Because until recently, people sort of measured happiness as a thing, and actually that's just a positive emotion. It's just a feeling which comes and goes. You know, it's not something, we're not permanently happy, like nobody. Even if you're very positive and optimistic, no one's ever, you know, the whole spectrum of human emotion is very varied, and nor should we try to be, because that puts too much pressure on us. Another book I've written, actually, which I will mention a bit later, is The Happiness Bible. This is a different cover, I think, in England and UK, but it is available in America and Canada as well. I think Firefly Publishers did it. But the Happiness Bible, it very much talks about the whole spectrum of emotion, not just happiness. But yeah, just to talk through these a little bit and how they relate to the book. Positive emotion, that includes obviously happiness, but also awe, love, gratitude, joy, curiosity, and then things like serenity and hope. So you know, knowing that this too shall pass if there's a problem, and just hope for the future, and you've got some plans for going forward and stuff. So they're positive emotions, they're very important. Engagement is that feeling when you lose yourself, you get immersed in something. I think you did, was there, I think, a cross stitch workshop thing, things like that, you know, stuff that you absolutely love to do, that you can immerse yourself in, get really absorbed in, that perhaps is not so easy that it's just really sort of boring, but a little bit challenging, but not too hard that it's too difficult. So getting into that sense of flow, that is another, basically, if you get all of these pillars of well-being, you kind of tick these boxes, then you can keep this nice, reasonably high level of sustainable well-being. So engagement. And then the three that I focused on really today, which I think relate to the book the most, are supportive relationships, because we need to have at least one person we can confide in. We don't need hundreds of friends and people. We just need to feel seen, heard, and valued, and like we belong in some way. But even if it's just one person that makes us feel like that's enough, and we do need those mutually supportive relationships. Meaning and purpose, and it doesn't have to be, you know, I am doing a job that is my life's calling. It could be, you know, being a mother. Is meaningful. You know, you're raising another human, and it's very hard work, as we know. But yeah, all kinds of things can give your life meaning, voluntary work, things like that. And yeah, achievement, having that balance between gratitude for what you've already got and wanting to self-betterment and personal development and achieving things. So down the hold on, your left hand side, right hand side. Down the right hand side, there's some of the sort of contents page from the Be More Wonder Woman book. So we've got Other People Matter. So, you know, being kind, compassion. I'll show you some pages of the book in a second that relate to this. But the point of being kind, trying compassion first, being in this together, which we've really, I'm sure, across the world we felt that with this pandemic, and the fact that people do matter, and having hope and giving hope. And then honouring your values. We talked a minute ago about the Wonder Woman kind of values, but how they relate to your purpose and lead the way with your principles, so you sort of have integrity. And then achievement, you know, being your own superhero, so believing in ourselves, not underestimating ourselves, and this sense that we're enough. I know, I think particularly as women, it can be kind of drummed into you, perhaps. I think the media and stuff, you know, you've got to look this, and you're not thin enough or pretty enough or young enough, or all it's just constant. So you do have to be a Wonder Woman and a bit of a warrior to go, no, I'm fine as I am, thank you, stop making me feel like I'm not, and just to try and rise above all of that. But which I think, you know, maybe it does get easier when you get older, but yeah, so they're the sort of things, and cultivating courage and so on. So going back to the relationships point. Oh, and just to say, vitality, I think Wonder Woman has totally nailed vitality, because, you know, she is like us, and like Gal Gadot from, you know, in the film, was pregnant when she when she did all those scenes. So it was sort of like hats off to her. So yeah, I think she ticks those boxes. I have to confess, even though, you know, I write about well-being, and I think I probably manage most of them, but the vitality thing is still very much work in progress, especially at the moment. I'm been at my desk a lot and not moving anywhere near enough. So yeah, always work in progress. But yeah, if we just go to these, so essentially the book, it was really good because I was just told, right, you need to find some quotes from Wonder Woman across the history of her publications. I was given a sort of resource to use. It was quite difficult to kind of do, but it was an enjoyable work. And then I needed to write something about it, and I wanted to try and keep to this sort of positive psychology kind of vibe. So yeah, so here we've got, obviously, the connection is at the heart of what it means to be human, and however right we think we are, it's never all about us. Everyone wants to feel seen, heard and valued. So it's this honouring all voices by listening well, giving people our full attention, maintaining eye contact, asking questions and showing an interest. And then, like Wonder Woman, having the courage to speak for those voices that struggle to be heard. You know, if a cause matters to you, commit to doing something, anything to help. And obviously now that's sort of become even more powerful as something to do. And her quote was, if it means interfering in an ensconced, outdated system to help just one woman, man or child, I'm willing to accept the consequences. So yeah, well, I try to avoid the news, but, you know, things like what's happening in Portland and things like that, you can imagine her being like really behind everybody and supporting there. So you know, that's very important, but also in relation to us as people, just recognizing that I'll get onto the kindness thing in a minute, but this is I think that what's been happening around the world at the moment has made us really value connection, because I don't know about you guys, but I've found this sort of duality. So it's kind of like we've been disconnected from people that we want to spend time with. We're not able to spend time with them. So we've disconnected from them, but in some ways felt more connected to humanity, because we're all, literally every country around the world has been going through the same stuff. And so yeah, so I think it has really opened that up. Now I'm just gonna move. Okay, I'll leave that. So joining forces, yeah, again, obviously Wonder Woman, there's the Justice League, and joining forces, and yeah, having a purpose is great, but what's even greater is finding others who share that purpose. And there is this strength in numbers. I mean, your community, you know, it does just give you this sense that we're in this together, and, you know, you're not alone, and so on. And you know that you can achieve more together. So as you go about your life, be on the lookout for like-minded people. You don't have to form a formal team or organisation like Wonder Woman and the Justice League, but maybe you just want to meet up with them now and chat or exchange contacts. And who knows, they will open your eyes to different ways about doing things. And the diversity in that group as well is quite important in terms of thoughts and ideas, because then you can consider other people's opinions you might not have considered. For example, I've got, don't know if you can see, but I've got I've got a couple of tattoos, but it's kind of weird that I've written the Wonder Woman book, but I wonder, which is supposed to, and sometimes it does, remind me to go, I wonder if there's a different way of looking at this, which I try and use when I'm having a little debate with my other half. Doesn't always work, because I just think, no, you need to know that I'm right here. But I try to consider other viewpoints. And yeah, so, and the collaboration really helps with that. And also, just as we need, I sort of already mentioned this, but collaborating helps us connect with people so that we can have other people. We need supportive relationships in order to thrive. We need people that we can count on. And I've just finished writing a book called Navigating Loneliness. It's not going to be out until next year, and I guess it could have been really useful for people during social isolation, but it's something that yeah, it would really really help, I think, because it just reminds us that we need to connect better with ourselves, but we also need to connect better with others. In fact, there's a whole chapter on connecting with yourself, which is as important as doing that. So now let's see. Shared value, yeah, and shared values, yeah. So it kind of ties back in with that whole thing about having values. Sometimes you can be in relationships or situations, and you've got completely different values. I've been finding that recently. I'll be honest. I've got a relationship where some real clashing values have come up, and I was like toying with it. Do you need to then, right, that's it, you shouldn't be in that relationship, or you need to move on? And actually I just think it's useful for learning, because you can really listen and do that whole, I wonder what another way of looking at this is, and really it can open your mind to other ways of looking at things. It doesn't mean that you're sort of, either of you are necessarily right or wrong, but that just there's lots of different ways of looking at things. As long as it's, we're all decent and kind to each other, then I think there's scope for everything. So now, kindness. This is the, oh, hold on. Yes, there we go. Lovely picture there of Wonder Woman. So her quote was, no matter how small an act of kindness or generosity or simple positivity you put out into the world, it will make a difference. And what's interesting is, when it comes to positive psychology, there's a whole range of different interventions that we can all do to boost our well-being, to do with that PERMA V thing. And kindness, well, the two interventions that have been shown to have the biggest long-lasting effect are kindness and also gratitude. So you probably heard of, trying to record, find the good and focus on what's good, what's happened, that's the beautiful parts of a day. Even when you've had a terrible day, just try and find one thing that you're grateful for. And the reason that is because it's going off on a bit of a tangent here, but the reason for that is because we spend so much of our time ruminating on the past and regrets, and I shouldn't have said that, and what have I done, all of that kind of stuff, and worrying about the future and what if this happens, and oh no, and worst case scenarios. So it's either past or future, and gratitude for what you have now kind of brings you back, and that sort of like focuses on being positive for what you're grateful for in the moment. But kindness, of all the positive psychology interventions, has the biggest impact above everything. And you know, when they measure and they actually do these kind of scans of your brain and stuff, they to see which parts of the happiness parts of your brain light up and so on. Kindness is the one that seems to have the most positive impact, and it even gives you something called giver's glow. So actually, not only does it impact positively the person you're being kind to, but it also really is good for well-being. And what's interesting, I didn't know this until I did my research, but it's actually better to, it's called chunking kindness. So instead of, say, you might think, I'm going to do a kind thing every day, which is brilliant and should be done, but actually, if you, instead of doing that, thought, right, I'm going to have a whole kindness afternoon or a whole weekend of being kind, and just literally just do, you know, a few things or 10 things or something that are kind acts, that has even more of an impact on you. Obviously, the main reason that you're being kind is to be kind to other people because you care deeply about other people, but actually the impact on your own state of mind. So if you were having a day from hell and you just felt really just everything's terrible and feeling, we all have them, negative spiral and you're doom and gloom, actually just doing a few kind things genuinely will make you feel better. It's just a fact. It sparks part of the brain that it comes back to that supportive relationships, and it also gives life meaning, so it ticks that box, and a sense of achievement as well. So it kind of ticks quite a few of those PERMA V positive psychology pillars of well-being. And actually, if you do something which involves moving your body to be kind in some way as well, then or you know, like you do a marathon to raise money for something as well, then you even tick the vitality box. So so that's really good. Now this really fascinated me, so I'll just quickly read this and then I'll move on to the next slide, but it sort of shows how much it can positively impact you. So she says, I said this bit, you may not be able to actually fly like Wonder Woman, but being kind can make your heart fly and your spirit soar. Kindness and positivity are contagious. They create a ripple effect that can inspire those around you. Helping others increases your own feelings of strength, makes you feel good, and reduces stress. What's more, the endorphins released provide a giver's glow and a sense of togetherness. So give your imaginary tiara a bit of a shine and then carry out a few acts of kindness and bask in that wonderful glow. And remember, if someone is kind to you, pay it forward. So this actually makes me cringe now I'm looking at it because it's like me. But so quick backstory of this. So my this was 3 years ago. I'm 46 now. I was 43. I was coming up to 43. My mum passed away when she was 43. So I was 17 at the time. So I knew that when I got to that day, I'd feel weird, like I'm the same age as my mum, and it would just feel, I just knew it's always would be hard, but that particular day would be harder than most. So I thought, okay, I need to do something to lift me out of that. And my positive psychology teacher, Amelia, she did, so it was not my idea, she did a kindness day. I think she is significantly younger, so I think it was like 33 days. She turned 33 and she did 33 acts of kindness. And I thought, that's really good. And she just did it just for a birthday thing to do. But I thought, oh, this is really purposeful because this is a really good way of honouring my mum, but also making me feel, selfishly kind of making me feel better on a day that could have been kind of difficult. So I wanted to cheer myself up. So it did take some planning, but I highly recommend it if you've got a significant birthday or if you've been feeling a bit down. It doesn't have to be 43 things. I was tired, but it lasted for days, the glow of it. I did, and this that was written. Yeah, I did it was this women's magazine, and I only agreed to do this feature if they could donate the fee to MS, which is what my mum had. So that worked out fine, but still it makes me a bit spooky. But I thought I like to share it because it just shows, it illustrates that point, doesn't it, of kindness. So so some of the things I did was things like I had a budget, so I did spend how much it was. I just set a budget for myself, and I went and bought quite a few bunches of flowers. I stuck some pound coins to some parking meters, so people like free parking. And a quick story: one woman, she went to take the pound off, and she said, "Oh my gosh, is this you?" And I said, "Yes." And I kind of explained a little bit why I was doing it, and she said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I've had the worst day." And she'd recently lost her brother and was having some issues with the relationship. She was just having a really terrible day, and so just one act, it really made a difference to her. And that just that one person made it all worthwhile. So and then funny things like putting notes saying you are enough or you're amazing and things like that in library books, like hiding them, sneaking, putting them back. That was cool. I love doing that one. That was like being a ninja. Or being a daffodil ninja is a good one, because they're quite cheap flower. You can buy bunches of daffodils for £1 or whatever the equivalent is in the US, and just leaving them on friends' doorsteps and just leaving them there. That was quite a nice one. And baked some cookies, took them to the neighbours, all of this sort of thing. So anyway, yeah, that is something good to do. And you can find, if you just type random acts of kindness, you can get ideas, and it really does make you feel good. So even if you do it just literally to be completely selfishly for you, not selfishly, you deserve to feel good, and it's a great way to. But if you actually do it mainly for that reason, rather than to because you're not really feeling like being kind to other people because you're so down, actually it kind of just lifts you up. It's a really good way of boosting. So let's get away from that one for a minute. So obviously, yes, being kind to yourself, we forget that one now, because you're probably I imagine, well, just look at you, probably quite, you know, very kind people anyway, and you probably put yourself last, and that does happen a lot. And actually, no, it's important to forgive yourself for things, because it's all useful learning, and comfort yourself like you would a best friend. Oops, my notes. Something that I've read recently I found interesting was the self-esteem industry really took off and has been really like, you know, you can do this, and yeah, and really sort of to try and help people feel better. But what self-compassion does, self-esteem is actually great for sort of making you feel good about yourself. But when you get something wrong, you make a mistake, it doesn't really work, because it seems to really be, you know, rooting for you, but only when you're succeeding. So when you're failing, it doesn't really work. Whereas self-compassion is like actually permission to be human. Yes, I really badly messed that up. Permission to be human. And I found that really useful myself, especially parenting, you know, well, anyway, there's all kinds of scenarios, but yeah, parenting, we really need to be kinder to ourselves, because we're always, I think one of the things that all mums tend to do is think, oh, I'm the worst mum in the world because I just did this. And then actually, if you speak to every other mother you know, they've had the same thought, and we can't all be the worst mum. And actually, the fact that we even care enough to beat ourselves up about how badly we're doing is enough. It, you know, proves that actually we're decent at the job, because we care enough, we want to get it right, and that in itself, you know, shows that we're good enough, and we're trying our best. So and yeah, we're all in this together as well. So so there's that one. I just wanted to come back to this one because, why did I put this slide in again? I think it was, just because we've talked kind of about how other people matter and being kind and supportive relationships, and actually how being kind can give you meaning and purpose as well. But there's also knowing what you're capable of, and I'm just gonna, I don't think I included this slide in this. Let's see, believing yourself, yes. So I'm going to just hide it because I didn't actually use it. Here's this one. So Wonder Woman says, all you have to do is have confidence in your own strength and believe in yourself. So consider what makes you uniquely you. Is it your humour, your curiosity, creativity, or courage? Perhaps people admire your leadership, your humility, persistence, or integrity. We all have unique superpowers. Making the most of your individual character strengths can boost well-being and performance and build a buffer against stress. So forget your flaws, or accept them anyway, and focus on your fortes. Start looking for ways to use your strengths in your daily life. And one tip, you might have heard of this actually. Yeah, there's, actually I'm just going to go on to this one. Yes, because this is relevant to, this isn't in the book, this particular image, but I think the quote is, but it's with a different image. But yeah, people, this was Diana, Diana's mum. So people never know what they're capable of, Diana dear. Even a bird sometimes has to be shown it can fly. I will remember, mother. So yeah, Diana Prince sort of remembering her mother's wisdom. And knowing what we're capable of is something, I'll come on to this resource I was going to give you in a second, but it's something we often don't realise what we can do until, I've written here, we often don't realise until we do what we think we can't and realise we can. So it's actually doing what we think we can't do. And only when we stretch ourselves and try new things, step outside of our comfort zone, do we truly realise we can do a lot more than we thought we could. I'm just at the moment, I'm just finishing ghostwriting a book about adventure, and it's really interesting. But one of the things that it's found that a lot of people, especially people who sort of struggle to conform, or perhaps children with ADHD, or, you know, don't sort of necessarily fit the mold, but actually need to get out there and adventure. And actually when people, actually we all need this, but when you push yourself past your comfort zone, you realise you can do more than you thought you could. And for so many people, especially people who maybe don't fit the mould of what society says we should. But just quick aside, Jen Pasteloff, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's got a book called On Being Human, and I love her quote, and she says, "Should is an arsehole," which is very true. Which is one of my favourite things about. I wish I'd said that, but yeah, that's of her. Anyway, yeah, so people who don't fit the mould tend to need that kind of like novelty and uncertainty, and adventure is really good for that. But it also is brilliant at showing you what your strengths are, and that you can always do more than you thought you could. And in relation to well-being and flourishing, strengths are very important in terms of using them to achieve and accomplish, which is obviously one of the pillars. And also when we use our strengths to challenge ourselves so we can get engaged and find the flow and so on. So strengths are really important. And the resource I was going to tell you about, you might already have heard of this. It's called Values in Action. So it's viastrengths.org. I think that's the address. If you type into Google VIA character strengths, it will definitely come up. I think it's viastrengths.org, or it might be VIA character strengths, but I'm pretty sure it's the first one. And it's a really good, anyone from age 10 upwards can do it. It's about 25 minutes, so it does take a little bit of time to do, but it's so accurate, and it gives you the your character strengths in order. There's 24 that we all have, and it ranks them, so it tells you what your like top 5 strengths. So for example, mine are, I can't remember my top 5, my top 3 are hope, optimism and zest, and my daughter's was hope, creativity and love. And so it's really good, because then sometimes you might be thinking, oh, they're not behaving, or you know, or I've been on at them so much because they're not doing what I've asked them to do, and actually oh, but hold on, these are their character strengths. So if I can kind of reinforce that, and also for yourself as a reminder that you're actually awesome and you've got some really good strengths. So yeah, there's loads. Leadership, that's leadership isn't mine, but it's my husband's. So it's just a really useful resource. Check how we're doing time. Oh, okay, we're all right for time. So last thing, I have run over a little bit for questions. Well, we'll have a tiny bit for questions. But yes, I just wanted to think, I've kind of, when I do talks, usually I talk about acceptance, balance and compassion, which is I call the ABC of flourishing. And it's very much accepting where you are now, what you've got, instead of constantly wanting more, which I know is a kind of human trait, but accepting all your flaws and everything, and finding balance between it all. Balance, I think, comes into almost everything that you can be wrangling with. If you think, can I bring more balance into that? And then also compassion. And there's a lot in the Be More Wonder Woman book about compassion and being your own hero and so on. But I just wanted to read you a tiny bit from the Happiness Bible, which kind of, I think, summarises it all. And I can't read my own book because I need my glasses. So bear with me a second. Hold on. So let's see. So we end up seeking compassion from others before we give it to ourselves. Self-criticism is a prevalent human tendency, and yet what we are generally critical of is our humanity. We share flaws, imperfections, emotions and failures with every other person on the planet, even the seemingly perfect ones that we compare ourselves with on social media. Each of us has insecurities and weaknesses. We each hold resentment and judgments to varying degrees, but we've all experienced anger, jealousy and fear. All of us have our fantastically flawed humanity in common, along with the shared desire by the majority of us to be decent humans. Perhaps then, if we are so keen to be good people, like Wonder Woman, we should practice by being good to ourselves without waiting until we never make another mistake, or never think another negative thought, or never lose our temper again. If we wait until then to be kind to ourselves, we'll never do it, because being perfect is not being human. Being flawed is. In accepting the whole spectrum of our emotions, our strengths and our weaknesses, our successes and our failures, we can embrace the complexity of humanity, and rather than criticise it, celebrate it. When we live our lives through a lens of acceptance, tolerance and compassion, both for ourselves and for other humans, we become stronger and better equipped to cope with and cherish life in all its occasionally brutal glory. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of end on that note, because I do think, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I do think that, yeah, Wonder Woman in the book, that's kind of the message. I couldn't write all of that into this book because I had only little little snippets. So I'm going to stop share and come back, and I guess perhaps now is probably a good time to go for any questions. And I realise I need to have a quick scan of the chat because I wasn't paying any attention because I'm terrible. If I start looking at that, then I don't know what I'll forget everything.